Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, I just found a great new website for making sausages. Let me know if you want the link. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Batman, the animated series Shadow of the Bat from IDW Games. Hello, everybody. We'll get back to the review in just a second. I just want to take a moment to ask you to go ahead and check out and subscribe to my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check that out. Please subscribe. And now, back to the review. In Batman, the animated series Shadow of the Bat from IDW Games, 1 to 5 players take on the role of Batman, his friends, and those iconic Batman villains as they attempt to recreate the various episodes of the animated series. Now, the game comes with a ton of minis, terrain, tile boards, and a mountain of tokens, as well as some other goodies as well. Now, the game can be played competitively, where 1 player takes on the role of all of the Batman villains, while 4 heroes are divided up amongst the other players. There's also a cooperative version of the game, where the game's AI takes on the role of the villains, and 4 players can take on the roles of Batman's heroes. Now, essentially, how the competitive game works is the heroes are each going to get their own player card. It's going to say how many cards they get. Typically, you can get a number of cards, but you can switch out one of your cards for 4 gadget cards if you have a utility belt. Some of the heroes, like Commissioner Gordon, he's going to have some police officers that back him up, and there's going to be some different little things for every one of the heroes, some different unusual things that they can get to help them in the game. They also have different stats like health and a reawakening ability, and more on that later. Now, the villain is going to take the various villain cards. Now, of course, you have an iconic villain like Joker or Penguin or Mr. Freeze or the Man-Bat, but then you also have the henchmen. Some of them have guns, some of them are big bruisers. You go ahead and you grab all their cards and their information as well. Now, just like Batman and the heroes have card decks, the villains also have card decks. Each of the villain groups have card decks. You go ahead, you shuffle all those together to create your villain deck. Now, at the very beginning of a round, the villain player is going to take a number of villain cards into his hand, depending on what his hand limit is at that time. Now, the heroes are all going to have their own action dice. And their action dice, of course, have various faces on it showing what they can do. They can make a ranged attack, they can do a melee attack, they can walk, and they can roll a bat symbol. You roll a bat symbol, generally you can go ahead and change it to whatever you want, and there's some other things that might trigger. But every player is going to roll their die. Now, what that means is usually they got 3 die. You're going to roll those die, and you're going to arrange them in a certain order in front of you. So the heroes are going to decide which die is going to be on the right, which is in the middle, and which is on their left. And that's important because the player to your left is going to be able to also do an action off of your right die, and vice versa. The player on the other side is going to be able to do a action off of that die. So each hero is going to get essentially 5 actions per turn, 3 that they rolled, and then 2 that come from their neighbors. Then you go to the battle phase. Now, the scenario is going to set up, of course, where the villains are and what specific objectives. You might have to, defuse bombs. You might have to rescue hostages. There's all sorts of different scenario objectives you might be needing to accomplish. So the heroes are going to go first. Essentially, how it's going to play out is a hero is going to take an action, then the villain will take an action, then the next hero will take an action, then a villain. You're going to do that until all of the 4 heroes have gone and the villain has gone 5 times. Now again, you're spending those die. You're spending the movement. Some of them are just move 1, some of them are move 2. You're spending your melee, you're spending your ranged attacks, you're doing any other special abilities you have, and you're playing your cards in order to beat your enemies. Now, one icon you can also roll is a shield icon. If you roll a shield icon, that's going to help you defend in case you are attacked at some point during the round. Now, every player has a natural kind of battle icon, and that allows them to roll a number of battle die. But then you can also add any kind of, say, melee icons that you've rolled or that you get from your other players. You're going to roll all the dice you have then. You're going to add up all those numbers, roll all those battle die, and then, of course, you're looking for the POW symbol. You're looking for the attack symbol. That means you score a point. Now, you go ahead and you roll those things. Now, whoever you're attacking, they're going to be able to look at any defensive symbols they have on their cards or if they've rolled or whatever, and then they can roll that number of die, the battle die. Well, if the battle die comes up with Batman shielding himself, then any of those hits are discarded. You're able to avoid them. Any that get through result in wounds. Now, as I say, there may be some special actions like defusing a bomb or rescuing a hostage. You can go ahead and follow the specific scenario guidelines in order to accomplish those tasks on your turn. Now, the villain has kind of a villain play area that's got 4 slots along the bottom. He's going to play a card into slot 1. That card will allow him to activate other villains on the board or give them special abilities. It may have icons like a defensive icon to help them protect themselves or an offensive icon there as well. So you're going to go ahead on every turn, you're going to lay those down depending on where they are and how they function. You might be able to use different abilities from them throughout the course of the round. Now, as soon as the villain has taken their last turn, their 4th turn, you go to the end of the round phase. Now, if there's any end of round special actions or rules that engage or things that have been played on cards, they go ahead and they activate at that time. Next, you move the round tracker ahead 1 space, and then you prepare for the next round. Now, there's also, as I say, the cooperative version of the game, which plays more or less the same, except with that one, you're playing against the AI, and instead of just taking turns against the AI, you have an initiative deck. Essentially, you have a deck that has a number of Batman, Catwoman, Robin, Commissioner Gordon, Batgirl cards that you go ahead and you mix in with the various villains. So you're drawing one of those cards, and you never know whose turn it is that's going to come up next. So, players are going back and forth. They are attempting to achieve their objectives, or if you're the villain, you're attempting to stop Batman and his friends from achieving those objectives. You are rolling dice, you are engaging in melee attacks, you are doing ranged attacks, you are playing cards and gadgets, you are attempting to attack and defend yourself throughout, and whoever can succeed in achieving their objectives wins. Batman, the Animated Series, Shadow of the Bat. So, there's a lot more going on here. There's the villain's got a lot of options. They can also do wild actions. There's a lot of iconography, and there's a lot of keywords that play off of your actions and different things you're doing. So there is actually a ton going on here. That was just a very, very brief rules overview. So a few month or so back, I played through the Batman The Dark Knight Returns solo game from Cryptozoic, which I just loved. I thought it was just a fantastic game, and I kind of got on a Batman kick. And not long after that, I was in a store, I saw this, and I was thinking about it. Eventually, I got an Amazon gift card. I thought, yeah, I'm going to buy it. So I bought this game. It's not an inexpensive game. And part of that is it's a beautiful production. It looks great. You've got some, well, first of all, the artwork is great. It's from, of course, the cartoon, the animated series. And then you've got the minis, which are all really well done. This is one, again, if I was a painter, I would just be so excited to paint these things. You've got all sorts of dice and unique dice that are kind of fun here, and then a lot of other tokens and goodies that come with it. In fact, I was kind of a little disappointed because it comes with some inserts, and I had to throw one insert away because I couldn't find any way to make everything fit. This was serious muffin topping here, so I threw away one of the inserts and I just kind of bagged everything, which I don't like to do. I like to use the insert if it works, but not all inserts, of course, work. I did keep the insert with the minis in it though, and of course that fits perfectly. So this game, first of all, this game kind of reminded me a little bit of Batman Gotham City Chronicles, which is another excellent Batman game, despite the rulebook, where you've got that kind of, the villain is playing the into the card slots. It kind of reminded me of the way you've got the river for the villains in Gotham City Chronicles. So there's kind of a little bit of, it feels somewhat similar to that game with that. The game, however, does feel a little lighter. The Gotham City Chronicles is a little bit darker, Batman, and this, of course, it's based on the animated series, so it's a little more, the artwork, the aesthetics, a little more kid-friendly. The game itself I would not call a kid's game by any means. This is actually kind of a deeper strategy game. Now, it's a tactical game, it's a brawler, which, a lot of times dungeon crawlers and brawlers are not my favorite, but if there's something unique and clever there, then I can actually really enjoy them. I played both versions, the cooperative and the competitive, and there's another version where I think you can just play like a two-player, like the Dark Knight is alone, plays against someone there. So there's different modes to play the game, but I played the cooperative game and the competitive game. And one thing I really liked about the cooperative game is that initiative deck. I love games, either cooperative or competitive, that has, you don't know whose turn it is. You draw a card, or like in the Birth of America series where you get the die or whatever, and that tells you whose turn it is. I really, really enjoy that aspect, because not knowing who's going next means you can't plan ahead like you want to, and I really enjoy that. You can't just math it out, right? And I really like that. So I had fun with the competitive version, or the cooperative version of the game, but I've got to tell you, I got to be honest with you, the game absolutely shines, in my opinion, in the competitive version. I really like the options that the villain has, but at the same time the heroes have some great abilities with their gadgets and card abilities. But the villain's fun because, again, it's kind of that river system with the cards and the slots where you can activate the different groups of villains, and sometimes, of course, that's just it. You're not just activating a villain necessarily, but you may be activating 3 villains or what have you, and I really enjoy that, and it's fun. It's a fun all-on-one game experience, and I like all-on-one games, and this does it, I think, very well. Generally speaking, I really enjoyed this game. I really had a lot of fun with it. Like I say, I played both modes. I had both fun, but I prefer the competitive. But I would absolutely play the cooperative if someone was up for that and just wanted to do the cooperative game. I'd absolutely be willing to do that too. Looks good. It plays fun. Now, my only kind of caveat here is it does seem at times it can be a bit rulesy. It can be a bit fiddly. It seems like in areas there's a little too many keywords and rules that I felt like it maybe didn't need. So I felt like it probably could have been streamlined a little more. But at the same time, I get a feeling that the designers and the publishers really wanted to make this a good, solid, not heavier strategy game, but certainly not a light strategy game. Because I wouldn't call this heavy by any means, but I wouldn't call it light either. And I think generally they succeeded, but occasionally, as I say, it does get a bit too rulesy. That's a very minor complaint. Generally, I had a lot of fun with this. It's a game that looks good. It's a game that's fun. And recommendation from the discriminating gamer is, with that caveat that it can be a little rulesy at times, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check it out, please subscribe, and please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That helps us out a lot as well. You know, ladies and gentlemen, a friend of mine with a stutter recently was sent to prison. But he won't finish his sentence.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody